Hello, my name is Jeremy Bell, and this is my intercultural speech. Could you think the way you live now would be normal if you would have grown up somewhere else, perhaps in a different country? My life seems perfectly normal to me, but someone from a different culture, their lives and lifestyles would not be the same. And when I did this, I interviewed a student from Japan. His name is Tomohiro Suko, and he's already a close friend of mine. And I just got to know a lot more about his culture and see what the differences are comparing his life in Japan to mine in America and his transition into America. A life of someone that has Japanese heritage is very different. It would have, as a whole, a different musical background, a different worldview, a different custom to food, and many different hobbies than I would have. One thing Tomo mentioned was his musical background, and in Japan, the music is more electronic. The instruments are more computer-based, and it's based less off of instrumentation and more about technology, because Japan is really big into technology. They're one of the most technological advanced countries there are. And he liked that music, but when he was around 14 years old, he listened to American music and he got into it. And that's when he decided to pick up more on it. The music in Japan is actually Western music, which is the opposite of what I thought, because it's in Asia, and Western music usually encompassed Europe and all the countries that are in it. But when he told me about the Japanese music, its form and its sound are based around the same principles that the music here in America is even based off of, and the music in Europe is based off of. So the music wasn't that different, but it was definitely a change when he came to America. It was much less technological and more instrumental. Another thing he talked about was he came from a different government. The Japanese government is sort of the same as ours, but different at the same time. Instead of a president, they have a prime minister, which is elected by Congress, and the whole process sort of mimics the one here in the U.S. It's a lot like Britain's. The one thing he said that shocked him, and that is common in Japanese culture, when you're running for office, there aren't videos that go against other competitors. People who are running for office, there aren't any videos that slanderize them or, make up facts or things that go against the competitors to give some people the upper hand. When Tomo saw it, he immediately said, "What's with that?" Yeah, because it's just very different. It's just not common to happen in Japan. He said he's never seen it before. So their government is a little more strict on the things that they can do. They make sure they run a better, cleaner race. They make sure the government is tighter. They make sure every one of the rules are followed. It's more strict than in the U.S. His lifestyle as a whole didn't change that much. I was surprised by that too, because someone from Japan, you would think, oh, they're used to living in a different type of house, having different stuff to do, eating different food, all that. He said it really didn't actually change much. I mean, the main difference was that he had to learn English instead of Japanese. So that was the main difference in his lifestyle. My favorite topic to talk about him was his custom to food. He said his main foods are miso soup. There are many types of breads he eats. Rice is very common, beans, pork, beef, and there are a lot of vegetables. He said there's even a more, a much more variety with Japan, with Japanese vegetables than there are with the American ones. He also said that the main meat they eat is fish, which is not surprising, seeing as how Japan is an island and they just take advantage of the natural resources. One thing that he said was custom to Japanese culture is when they eat food, they eat it more as a whole than as separate pieces. Because, when you get together to eat, you have mashed potatoes, you have green beans, and you have the fried chicken. Changing the foods a little bit, you would have rice, beans, and maybe fish on top of it, but you would have it all together rather than in separate parts of the plate. And that was the main difference about the food that he said. He has different hobbies. The Japanese culture as a whole definitely has different hobbies than we in the U.S. do. He said there were definitely less churches and less gymnasiums. So it's not a very Christian or religion-based place. So it's very scarce on churches, and gymnasiums aren't really open that much. Since Japan is more into technology, they stick to, stuff like video games. And, they don't really exercise as much. They don't spend near as much time. And because of that, they make most of the gyms and tennis courts that Tomo said he has been to, you had to pay to go and use. Tomo's very favorite hobby was playing video games. I can sort of relate to it because I've been playing video games a lot during my whole life, but he said he had been playing more because it was just very huge. And because of that, I was wondering if the price was that much different, and he said it wasn't really that there was much difference in the price because you usually got it during your birthday. As a conclusion, there are some things that are similar to the lifestyle in America. Most things are different, but Japan is another part of the world, and I expected more things in the culture to be different than I thought about, and it was very interesting to see all the things that were similar.